And we are back, probably giving our cameraman a heart attack with the conversations that we're having.
I mean, we could start by saying that he's outnumbered.
He is definitely outnumbered today. But ladies, we have been talking about embracing equity all morning. Kind of got into some, individual experiences and so forth, and what these topics mean for all of us. And I know Sabrina was talking about things like embracing your sexuality as a woman, and why is it wrong to do that versus when a man does it, it's okay.
Yeah.
But we also had the discussion on, I feel mostly judged by our own sisters.
Yeah.
So how do we break that? How do we talk about, like, we're here having this wonderful conversation, and I'm just here like, I really want that dress. I want Christy Converse because it looks beautiful on them. And that's a genuine thought. But a lot of the times we don't feel that way about other women, or a lot of the times we don't feel that women think that way about us. Why do we think that is?
I think because the patriarchy has kind of sometimes created a competition for us. There's limited spaces, so we need to compete with each other. So there's not enough space for you, there's not space for you. And so we kind of get jealous, we get envious, and we can't. So a lot of people lack emotional intelligence to recognize that what I'm feeling is envy, and I want that for myself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of where the conversation needs to start.
Kindness isn't a pie.
No?
We don't have to fight for slices. We can raise someone else up and still raise up theirs. There's enough space out there in the world for all of us to rise and to shine. Yeah. There is definitely enough of that. It's not like we're talking about a slice of pie. We'll have to grab mine because if you get it first or you get it first, I know I'll get that piece. Yeah. I think we have to realize that as just humans. Like, we drag each other down, but it doesn't hurt to say, you look really nice today. Or, hey, come let me help you with that.
Yeah.
And we're our worst critics. I mean, even to ourselves. How many times do we just look in the mirror and think, man, look at this, look at that, look at the whatever, I don't need other people to bring me down. I do a really good job of it myself.
So I love that.
That's the truth for most of us.
I love that you were touching on that, because one of the conversations we were having during the break is the superficial view or expectation of a woman, the commercialism side, if we could even say that. A woman is expected to carry herself a certain way, and of course, if we don't do that, we are the ones that are our biggest critic. A woman will tear down another woman. Yes. But what are your views of how a woman should present herself? We touched on a woman embracing her sexuality.
Yes.
That in a lot of ways is considered forbidden.
Taboo.
Right?
Yeah.
We could even
say that in this country and be okay.
We could even
TV here, people.
I've been saying it for many years.
I mean, we've seen situations where, and this is just an example, where if you compare a woman and a man that goes around and finds several partners, he's considered a what? A player, or whatever you address guys as. But a woman. What's the Creole term? We said sketel. You're a sketel. Let's talk about that.
I believe that it starts with us. Who are you? Look at yourself. If you don't know who you are, how can you motivate others? How can you move on forward? It's not about bringing each other down. It's about coming together as sisters, sisterhoods. So I think we need to have more of this, bringing all the women together. Hear everyone struggle. You can say, oh, yes, I'm going through the same thing. Each woman is going through the same thing. If we can hear each other stories, we can say, okay, we're giving hope. Just that slight hope that someone is going through the same thing, that is just slight hope of making change.
But that's really tricky, because sometimes I feel like we all feel it, but we don't know where to grab a corner and talk about it because you feel ashamed. There's this sense of innate shame that we carry, because that if I admit that maybe I'm not very maternal, you might judge me. Or if I just want to explore dating guys, you might judge me. If I want to dress a certain way, everybody else will judge me. So how do you start that? How do you start having those safe spaces for us to embrace femininity, whatever we want that to look like for us?
I found groups. You talk about scarcity, and indeed, a lot of time it comes from a scarcity mindset in terms of there is a lot of competition. And I think you said it right, Christy. We don't have to. Everybody could win. Everybody should win in their own way, and we could support each other. The challenge is finding the space, the safe space to be able to do that, so that we channel each other and promote and create that spread. You know. Starting, it's just like when we start from home, we have to start small and find other like-minded individuals that share that same momentum and energy that create. So for me, I found spaces that felt safe to embrace. So some of the beliefs that I already had and some of them that I was still struggling with, I found other women that promoted, you know, call your name in spaces, share and empower, that helped to channel even more the one that I felt I had, and then just maximizing that. So creating a safe space, but that's also not easy, because to have a safe space, I could just have a building and say this is a safe space, but it has to be psychologically safe, where I could put down my guard and talk about my vulnerability.
And that's exactly what I mean, you know, having
So,
a safe
environment.
space to call.
I run a support group.
Yes.
Parents with kids with disabilities. People's first times there, they put on their cameras, they want to share. As you've come along now, we met last week in person. We always meet once a month virtually, but a group of us met in person last week. And it was so funny for me to watch them, because some of them I've known now for 2 years.
Yeah.
And one of them said, like, oh my gosh, I dropped my kid off at school and I like, please God, like, I love my kid, but right now I can't stand her. Or, like, no, and this is what and the other one's like, oh no, I'm so struggling with this. But I watched it and I go, we've created this space now because there's no judgment. We get sometimes that we're going to cheer on our kids, and then sometimes I'm going to cry and say, I feel like I am the worst mother because I just want her left me alone for 5 minutes.
Yes.
And if you are a parent with a child with a disability, you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Others
Or
out
even
there are
without.
starting to
Or
judge
just
me
because
right
the
now.
child,
Others are, I'm explaining, I used to have a picture of my face with a big red X, and we'd show it to my son, because at this point it was like, no mommy, because there was literally a time I couldn't go to the bathroom without him.
Yeah.
And that's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I watch some of them go, because every time we have a new family or whatever, and you can see the hesitancy. But then you can see those that keep coming back, that feel okay to cry, to scream, I don't even know. I've had one parent tell me once that, I don't know if I go back, would I do this again? Would I have chosen to have a child? And that's something that's really hard to say. But that person told me, knowing now that I'm not there to judge. We all have these thoughts. It takes a while to get to that point. And there are times where, like, we meet and there's like 5 people, and then there are times we meet and there are 30 people. But it's about also the consistency and being very clear that this is a space solely for our parents with kids with disabilities. This is not to judge. Some of them will resort to prayer and think that that's what they need to get through the day. There'll be some of us that resort to alcohol, and that's how we survive our day.
I'm not pointing any
You make
great sangrias.
And also no judgment.
Right? But that's it. That's what I tell them. I said, you know, if you are the one that resorts to prayer, maybe you make sure you make friends with these other parents who do readings every day or whatever.
But
you
Christy,
find that.
you know, one of the things, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because everything that you just said is basic human emotion. That is basic. You are allowed to be frustrated. You are allowed to just scream at the sky. That is basic human emotion. Why do we put a gender on it?
And
Because
honestly,
a woman can't do that.
right?
Right.
And honestly, saying it out loud, because I do this sometimes. I'll be honest. There are times I'm like, I am just not mother material. Like, I don't have this. I struggle with my own kid, and it's hard. But again, the implicit bias, the worry about the judgment from others, that's hard to say out loud. And know that you're going to just have people that kind of look at you and get it and not judge you. And so that's how we've created our space to sort of deal with that. And maybe that's what we need for some of these women, to have some groups where we can talk about the fact that, yeah, you know what, I could handle 3 guys and date them at the same time and it's okay, or whatever it is,
like
without
a lot of work, though.
whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mean that, but
I'm not judging if that's what you guys want to do. I'm all about
because I mean, that also made me think of something else that's a really hot topic when it comes to the male-female dynamic. And I'm not sure if we can have this conversation, but it's very real.
Put it out
and
there.
that's body count when it comes to a male and female. A male. And I see some of the cameramen smiling.
Let's talk about it. Let's do it.
A male believes that is total hedonism.
Yeah.
For a woman to have
Conquest.
maybe more than 5 before 20 something. I don't know.
Or you don't know wifey material.
You're not wifey material,
material.
but a man could have 11 teen before he's 11, and like you're like, yes, you are a man.
Right. And everybody embraces it. Women embrace it too for them.
Yes.
It's a strange thing, but the minute we decide to do a body count, let's not. You're not allowed.
We have some sorting,
right?
You know what? Bring the guys on set.
And the reality is that why is that I think the other day I had a conversation with a friend and he was like, if a woman cheats, I never take she back. And I said,
because women are emotional and
because it's an emotional thing,
it.
and she think, and I, but men think about it.
But
they
a man
think about
just
it all the
doesn't.
time. And one of the things is that we also give it an expectation. So you don't expect him to do it. So if you do it, okay, you don't expect your woman to cheat.
Men will always cheat.
Exactly.
All men cheat.
I'm just saying it out there out loud.
Somebody's saying not me back there.
All men cheat and it's totally okay. But a woman,
Absolutely
you're
not.
expected to
Blasphemous. We can't
fit
do
in
it.
these 4 walls in this box here.
And if you do it, you're not wifey material. But you don't want a wife, right? Okay.
This is why I don't date. I don't even remember what dating feels like. So that's above me.
The shade was going to comment.
I was going to say that women have needs just as male, and it's physiological, right? And so it's a choice.
yeah.
Goodness for choice.
It's a choice, and we make that decision, but a lot of it has to do with socially in terms of, while it's a choice, some choices are more allowed in one gender as opposed to the other. And so whenever I hear this conversation that men are cheat because they're men, I'm like, well, women have needs just as much as males. So it's reminding them that women also have those same desires. They choose to act on it or not. So it's always a choice.
Yeah.
It's always, do you want to act on that feeling or not? Because physiologically, we're going to have that physiological response. That's human. That makes us human.
Humans, yeah.
But that choice in terms of, do I want to act on it?
But you know, and I'm glad you brought it up because you say that when in that space, women are supposed to be more rational thinkers. But it has always been this societal idea, or I don't understand the rules, but men are the logical ones. Men are the rational ones. That's why they have the big jobs. That's why they're able to be the president, because women are going to start wars because they're emotional. So we can't do that. But the minute you make a decision like that, how can you decide to be irrational in that moment? You're supposed to be better than that. But what do you want?
Well,
what
by
do you want from
design,
me?
the brain is supposed to work with the body.
Exactly.
Right? And so whenever we're just focusing on one, that means there's a weakness in another part. So when we're able to think and feel, that's when we're making the best decision. So if we're saying that females are tapping into the into the emotional component, and they could make decisions because they run the household, we see that, then that means we are at a good position to run the country, to be presidents, to be prime ministers, to have those big roles, because we use both. And it should be where we're encouraging the men as well, because if we just have a conversation about just women and we don't tap into the boys, then the same thing will happen, and
exactly.
we'll continue that cycle. So we have to
Exactly.
also be able to share that, where we're teaching our boys that dynamic as well. So like Christy had mentioned earlier, that it doesn't have to be a conversation now. We're actually creating the seeds now, and so that we're growing it, that eventually there comes a point where it's more common than, oh wow,
Yeah.
you're different for thinking that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I'm good.
ultimately, it sounds like it comes down to choice. We are able to be whatever we want to be. And like you rightly mentioned, because we are the makers in some ways, we do have the ability to control what the future thinking will look like as it relates to how women are viewed, how women are respected. And I really hope that we continue to have this conversation. I invite our viewers to ask any questions.
We do have some questions in our live stream.
Yes, that's what I was trying to look for.
And I mean, there are not a lot of questions, but some of them are asking things like, are characteristics and attitudes gender specific? And I guess this question goes more for my psychologist.
Repeat the question again, please.
Are characteristics and attitudes gender specific?
Characteristics and attitude. Some things are innate, some things are environmental. So there's that biological component and there's also the environmental component. So it's not one or the other. They both play a role, and based on what we're exposed to, some come out more in the beginning. So it changes over time. So it's not, is it just this or is it the other? They both play an essential role. So there's not one.
Also, I think it's the use of word, the stereotype. You have to stop that. It's the way how you carry yourself.
I somebody made a comment here about we're talking about we want equality, but it's just us discussing about men and not speaking about being equal. But I do think that the first part of the show, we did talk about equity. We did talk about support from our men. We did talk about wanting to not necessarily, we understand that biologically we will never be on an equal plane. Equity is the word that we're trying to embrace. Equity meaning we want to, if we have the same qualifications, we should receive the same amount of money for our job. If you are able to walk into an interview as a man and be given these particular benefits that come with the job, I should also receive those benefits. That is what equity means for me.
That's a little bit of equality. I think when we're going to start talking about equity, we need to start talking about that. Belize, we're graduating more girls than guys. Yet men are still getting paid on more than us. So that's something to look at. But one of our challenges as women is, should we choose to have kids, that's a break in our career. Right? And then what happens when you have a single mom who has a child and the child is sick and then you have to take the day off from work? And there are all of these challenges that come with just being that sort of thing. And I think when we talk about equities, how can we give these people an equal playing field? So should we talk about like universal daycares, or businesses start providing more support for single moms like that, that have children like that, or being a little bit more understanding, knowing that this is a person who, if you call at 9 o'clock, they can get on their computer and do this and that, but some days they will have to come in late because of school drop-offs or something that happens. So when we're talking about equity, it's not about everything has to be equal and we need to get equal pay and everything else, but there are going to be some challenges for persons with disability, for women, maybe for some with from different ethnic groups, and we want them to have that same playing field, which might mean giving these people more support to get them to that level.
But and I like that you brought up people with disabilities and so forth, because then you're moving into a conversation about moving into a progressive environment, right? Because now it's not just about everybody. This isn't a normal anymore. This one size fits all is not working for us.
And that's why I don't like the equality thing. I want the equity. They're going to have to be that image with the boxes. Equality is everybody get the same box and up there. That's why it was never a Bernie thing, because free education for all doesn't quite work and will apply across the board. Some people will need a bigger box.
Things like education, when we're talking about things like free healthcare and all of that stuff, because not every child learns the same way. So you can't give a one size fit all for free education. Everybody has different health needs and benefits, so it's not a one size fits all for free education, but that is moving more into a social progress. We still have a whole bunch of things to fix.
I think one of the main reasons free education or access for all in healthcare is the accessibility to it, so that regardless of where you are, you have that access and the opportunity to it. While some people may not need free education because they can afford it, we don't know who can and can't. So we have accessibility is one thing. I like in terms of equity, and even when we talk about parenting, we can't treat our children the same way because they have different personalities, different needs. We have to be able to meet that needs. And the same way for here, we're all different women having different needs, but how do we have access based on the thing that we need for where we are in our life, and being able to say, well, I could have access to that opportunity if I need it, so providing that space where we have those opportunities and we're not at disadvantage because of our sex, because of our age, because of our gender, because of any of those aspects, that we have those opportunities. So indeed, equality is there to some extent, but also equity in giving you the needs based on giving you the services, the access based on your needs.
We've been talking about feminism, and man, the time just goes so quickly. And we've all kind of basically agreed on what we think feminism is. But one of the things that I want to touch on before we wrap up our segment this morning is toxic femininity. And how are we, as women who understand what feminism is, we understand what we want in an equitable society, how do we battle the media frenzy of toxic feminism? I kind of want to talk to you, Shahidi, because you're the youngest one out of the group.
I think, but social media, to start off with, there's so many opinions everywhere.
Yes.
That's one of the things, and I think social media can either be something that can help us or can deter us from progression. And I think that we need to kind of stray away from this ideology that feminism means we hate men.
Yeah.
It means that misandry, well, you know what, men should just go away. No, because men are still an integral part of society. We need to include them. And that's what feminism is. It's not taking them out, it's putting us with them. And I think that's the important part. And I think that the more we talk about these things, the more that we educate people on what feminism really is. Because I've heard a lot of my guy friends talk about, well, I don't know I'm feminist because that just means that I don't like men and I know I'm being a feminist. That's not what feminism is. There are types of feminism, but it's not the main component and the main ideology of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, male and female included, think that feminism is kind of constantly bashing on men. We don't care anything about a man, it's only a female, what female needs. And I say this to say, I even had an interesting conversation a couple years ago where a man was saying that the way toxic femininity works is, or they assume that years to come, we'll need some type of like advocacy for men. Because we're so focused on what a woman needs that no one remembers that guys struggle too. And I'm not saying this to bring in the struggle of a man because this is our month. You guys will have your own month later. But I think it's important to discuss toxic femininity because that's the only way that we can really recognize and define what is actually right for us and not to get that mistaken, because it's easy to miss the actual message, the actual core of the message. We're not looking to define ourselves as better as a man. We recognize that we come with different qualities, that we do different things, that we're all unique in our own ways, and we bring certain things to the table that a man does not. And the goal is not to
marginalize men and
call us better. It's just to recognize that there are things that we deserve and we're not getting, and that's where equity comes in.
I'm about the individual, right? I'm focusing on what is right for you. Right? You need to be good, you need to be kind, you need to be happy. What is right for you, whether male, female, LGBTQIA, person with disability, whatever it is, you want to find what's good for you and make sure you are being kind and doing good elsewhere. If we could just focus on that, I think we'll go so far as a community.
What we have to focus is what the word actually means. Nobody know what is feminism. Nobody know what is equity. Do you know what is equity? Equity is like the balance between work, life, and what you do at home. Many women is struggling right now, and I think that is a most topic that we need to focus about in society and bringing hope and awareness.
Well, we will be having this conversation
every
Thursday. For the rest of this month. So this was such an interesting conversation, I have to say. I think just like you said, we could do this all day and not even eat, right?
Yeah.
We're not even hungry.
I had a drink.
But yeah, we do want to let our viewers know that we will be having this conversation every Thursday for the rest of the month. So tune in. We'll be having different ladies talking about their perspective of womanhood and feminism, the challenges, the way forward. How can we improve feminism and the advocacy for women?
I think also, please, our viewers, I really enjoyed the fact that we were getting questions and so forth on our live chat. So for the remainder of the month, tune in every Thursday, ask your questions. We are not here to show any kind of judgment or bias because a lot of the questions do come from our brothers. They want to understand, they want to know, they have opinions. A lot of our women have opinions too, so please let us know your thoughts.
I'm going to challenge you guys
as
you go throughout the month.
Okay.
I'm gonna quote my fair lady and my words. I'm so sick of words. As you guys continue this dialogue and stuff, what I would love is at the end of the month, have we come up with plans on how to get where we want to go? What are the first steps, second steps, wherever we are in this journey, how do we change and make the reality we want? Because as a country, we are so very good about talking. But the only time we're going to really make change is if we actually start doing something
Put our money where our mouth is.
You want to start making a change? Go check out your implicit biases. Start talking to other people from different cultures. Have this sort of thing. But make a plan on what you're going to do. So at the end of the month, we can say, all right, how, even if it's a little step, how are we going to get there? What are everybody going to do?
I love that.
Thank you,
That's
Christy.
a great idea.
We're going to close off our panel with giving us some solutions, some ideas to move forward. We'll take the break. We'll be back with so you see this beautiful, beautiful setting that we had here with all these lovely women. We're gonna bring some basketball players in,
and then we're gonna test them.
just to give us that equal balance, that equity that we've been talking about, to wrap up our show with the Belize City Defenders. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.